On the bus, a girl named Xiaoxing is on her way with her family from the village to the nearby small city. Xiaoxing reflects on everything that happened to her family in the past years and wishes that this move would be a new beginning in her life, a life she hopes will change for the better. We then see the family celebrating the opening of their small restaurant, each of them carrying hopes of finally living a normal life. Xiaoxing and her mother begin arranging the restaurant while the younger brother and the father hand out flyers to passers-by, who immediately throw them on the ground with complete disrespect. The first customer enters the restaurant and spills some noodle soup on the table. The younger brother quickly starts cleaning the table, but the woman accuses him of having splashed her dish with dirty water. The boy swears that the towel is dry, but the woman doesn't like the fact that he responds to her without shame, so she pours hot water over his hand. Xiaoxing's mother rushes to the woman and offers her a new dish, afraid that the restaurant might gain a bad reputation on its very first day. Meanwhile, the father tries to ease the burn on his son's hand. Xiaoxing sees the scene and steps outside. The woman refuses the new meal and speaks rudely before leaving. She gets on her bike, but soon realizes that the tire is flat, and we understand that this was Xiaoxing's doing. She wanted to take revenge for her younger brother's sake, and we realize that she is fair and cannot stand injustice. The family returns to their home and begins unpacking and tending to the younger brother's wound. He asks why they came back to this town again. His mother replies that this place is better for their education, since their situation was already bad before they came here, and now it's time to set things right. The mother takes a sock out of the bag with a trembling hand. Xiaoxing snatches it away and rushes to burn it, and we discover that it belonged to her older sister, Xiaobai. Xiaoxing returns to the room where her mother and brother are unpacking. That's when she sees Xiaobai's school file. She signals to her younger brother with her eyes, and he immediately understands what she means. He asks their mother to help him put on the pillowcase while Xiaoxing quickly tosses the file onto the bed before their mother sees it. The woman then tells her son, "Look how your sister was a top student." After seeing the record from her old school, she explains that Xiaobai had been accepted into the best school in the village. The mother leaves the room, and Xiaoxing sits next to her brother, who tells her he wants a reward now, because he just helped her. The next day, Xiaoxing sits beside a large tree and begins writing a letter to herself, to encourage herself to keep going in this town and to forget all the pain she and her family had gone through in the past. She places a leaf inside the envelope and sets it beside her. A boy dressed in black appears, standing behind her with his foot resting on the tree trunk. The boy, whose name is Mingqing, says that the leaf belongs to him and that this place is his. But Xiaoxing doesn't show the slightest bit of humor and tells him the tree belongs to the state, it's public, not private property. Mingqing snatches the envelope from her hand and tells her this is his spot whether she likes it or not. Xiaoxing tries to take the envelope back, but she can't. She tells him she doesn't want it anymore, and as she turns to leave, the boy says he knows who she is, she's Xiaobai's sister. The moment Xiaoxing hears the name, she freezes in shock. It's been years since anyone had spoken that name in their house. She tries to walk away again, but Mingqing grabs her hand, so she bites him quickly and runs off, leaving him behind, fuming with anger at the little girl. Xiaoxing returns home and begins preparing her school things for the next day. Her younger brother pulls out a pair of shoes that used to belong to Xiaobai. The moment Xiaoxing sees them, she snatches them from his hand and scolds him for keeping such a thing, then throws them aside. The boy says that Xiaobai was their sister, and that what's happening in this house is wrong. But Xiaoxing orders him to stop talking about these things, to which he finally replies that she's starting to sound just like their mother. The next morning, Xiaoxing heads to her new school wearing her old uniform, until her family can save up to buy the new one. She stands in front of the student list when two bullying boys notice her. One of them says she must be the new student, and that she's been placed in their class. He then tells her to come with them to the swimming pool, it's their class's turn to clean it today. Xiaoxing agrees and follows them, but one of the boys tells the other, "It was your turn," to which the bully replies, "She'll clean today. She's still new." While they clean, the bully pushes her into the water. Xiaoxing begins screaming, she can't swim. One of them reaches out to help her, but when she sees his face and realizes it's Mingqing, she pulls her hand back. Someone throws her a float, and she gets out of the pool using it, while Mingqing stands there stunned by her coldness and how much she clearly despises him. Xiaoxing heads to class and sits next to her desk mate, thanking her for lending her gym clothes while hers dry. As Xiaoxing puts away her things, she sees Mingqing sitting behind her in her small mirror, and her anxiety grows. She's been trying to avoid him completely ever since she found out he knew about her older sister, afraid he might cause her trouble or bully her like the others once did. The teacher begins explaining the lesson, which is about harassment. Xiaoxing starts feeling uneasy and tries to distract herself with anything. The teacher calls her name and asks her to explain what she knows about the places where harassment can happen. Xiaoxing stands trembling in front of the teacher and says she doesn't know. Her desk mate whispers to her to open the book to page 43. But when Xiaoxing does, she discovers the page is completely covered in heavy scribbles. She tries to hide the book, but the same bully from the pool snatches it and tells the teacher she clearly doesn't know the answers because she was scribbling all over the book all night. Xiaoxing feels humiliated as she hears the whispers of her classmates, while thinking to herself that she knows, it was her mother who did that. Xiaoxing returns home in a fit of rage and asks her mother, who has just come back from the market, why she scribbled all over the book. Her mother tells her that the information is useless and won't benefit them in any way. But Shi Yaoxing, angry, says that if Xi Yaobai had known that information, what happened to her wouldn't have happened. Her mother loses her temper and orders her never to mention that name in the house again, or she'll be punished. The next day, on her way to school, Mingqing sees Shi Yaoxing and calls out to her, but she tries to avoid him as usual. Mingqing blocks her path and asks why she keeps running from him like that. Then he tells her that he still hasn't gotten compensation for the bite marks she left on his hand. He demands that she do his homework until the end of the semester as a way to make up for it. Shi Yaoxing tells him she won't do it, but Mingqing leans in and whispers, "If you want to know how your sister died, you'll do what I say." Then he walks away. Shi Yaoxing trembles at his words, especially since the cause of death her family announced was appendicitis. She doesn't know if this boy is just messing with her to bully her, or if he truly knows the truth. Shi Yaoxing goes to class and starts working on Mingqing's assignments even though she doesn't want to. A little while later, Mingqing arrives and tells her she's clever for getting close to the solution so quickly. Shi Yaoxing tells him she's finished, hands him the homework, and tells him to leave. But Mingqing says he doesn't intend to, and that she should feel grateful. Every girl in the school would love to do his homework. Shi Yaoxing, in an unexpected tone, tells him to go ask those girls, then, and leave her alone. Mingqing is clearly annoyed by her attitude and walks away. Soon after, the rest of the students arrive, and Shi Yaoxing's seatmate sits down and asks her how she knows Mingqing. Shi Yaoxing replies that he's just bullying her. The girl tells her that Mingqing is the most popular boy in school. Shi Yaoxing shows her disapproval that a bully could become a popular figure among students. But the girl explains that despite his manipulative behavior, Mingqing is one of the top-performing students in the school, and students usually like him because he helps everyone with their studies. Shi Yaoxing is left confused. How can someone be both a bully and the school's top student at the same time? Shi Yaoxing then heads out to the basketball court and sees Mingqing playing with a group of other students. The moment she sees them, she recalls how she saw the same group chasing a boy a while back and taking his money by force. At that time, she assumed they were bullies, but in reality, they were actually catching a thief and returning a woman's stolen money. Still, Shi Yaoxing is convinced they're bullies, and that Mingqing is just like them. Shi Yaoxing snaps out of her memories when a basketball hits her in the head. Her classmates rush over to help her, and the two bullying boys say they were bored but she managed to give them a good laugh. Shi Yaoxing leaves the court, but Mingqing quickly follows and asks if she's okay. Shi Yaoxing tells him not to bother checking on her, she already knows what kind of person he is. Mingqing quickly replies that he just wanted to make sure she'd be able to finish the homework for him tomorrow and hands her his notebook. Shi Yaoxing grows visibly angry and tries to walk away, but Mingqing asks for her phone number. She tells him she doesn't have one. He assumes she's avoiding him, but she insists she truly doesn't own a phone. So, he asks for her home landline number instead. Mingqing walks away, and on her way back, Shi Yaoxing sees her younger brother leaving his school as well. The boy asks if she knows Mingqing. When she questions how he knows him, he tells her that Mingqing is the most famous basketball player in the village, and that everyone chases after him because he's handsome and talented. Shi Yaoxing tells him that Mingqing bullies her and forces her to do his homework in exchange for telling her how Xi Yaobai died. Her brother isn't surprised that Mingqing knows Xi Yaobai. He explains that most people in the village knew her because she was so beautiful, everyone admired her. Shi Yaoxing snaps at him, saying beauty isn't a blessing, but a curse. It makes a girl a target for every man, and the ones who can't have her will definitely hurt her. The boy responds that he always thought Shi Yaoxing was jealous of their sister, but she firmly says she hated Xi Yaobai's actions, not out of jealousy, never out of envy. Shi Yaoxing remembers how Xi Yaobai used to treat her arrogantly because of her looks. And when Shi Yaoxing once saw her with one of the thugs she was involved with and tried to stop her, Xi Yaobai humiliated her. Shi Yaoxing adds that her sister's actions ruined the whole family, both when she was alive and even after her death. They've become the target of bullying because of Xi Yaobai's disgraceful behavior. That's why, she says, she always wished she never had a sister to begin with. The next day, Shi Yaoxing storms into school, determined not to let that idiot Mingqing bully her about her sister ever again. She throws the homework notebook in his face and tells him he's a bully and a liar, that her sister died from appendicitis and nothing more, just as her family said. And if he's so sure of his story, he should bring proof. But Mingqing replies that she's the one who doesn't have any proof that her sister died of appendicitis. He adds that her sister was treated at the hospital where his father works, and he saw all the reports himself. He knows she died there, and he's sure it wasn't because of appendicitis. Then he leaves, handing the homework back to her, leaving Shi Yaoxing overwhelmed and torn by a past that refuses to let her go. Shi Yaoxing returns to her seat, thinking about Mingqing's words, wondering deep down if she truly wants to uncover the real cause of her sister's death, or if it's better left alone. That same day, Shi Yaoxing comes home to find her family with their cousin Jin Rui, who's visiting with his fiancée. He invites them all to his wedding, which will be held in their neighboring old village in a few months. Shi Yaoxing congratulates him, then goes up to the balcony with him. It becomes clear that he's very close to her. He tells her he knows she's going through a rough time at school and gives her some money, asking her to keep it a secret from her mother so she doesn't get upset. The next day, Shi Yaoxing heads to school and throws the homework back in Mingqing's face. She tells him she doesn't care if his father is the hospital director or her sister's doctor, she's sure he's lying, and she doesn't want him threatening her with this ever again. On the following day, Xiaoxing thinks she will live her life normally. While she's at school, the bullying students tell the teacher that Xiaoxing is walking inappropriately among the students because her pants are stained from her period. Xiaoxing rushes to the bathroom and asks her classmate to lend her some clothes like the previous time. The girl, with a trembling mouth, asks her, "Did your older sister really die from AIDS?" Xiaoxing drops what she was holding in shock, unable to believe what she's hearing for the first time, but she quickly realizes that Mingqing must be the one who spread this news around the school, just as he had threatened her. So she storms out searching for him like a madwoman, still in her shorts, without even getting the pants. Xiaoxing finds Mingqing and violently grabs him by the arm in front of all the students. She yells at him, saying she always knew he was a bully, but she never thought he could be this vile, to spread such a rumor about her sister in school, fully aware of what it would do to her. But Mingqing tells her he didn't spread any rumors and that when he arrived in the morning, the students were already talking about it. Then he advises her to wear some pants so she doesn't catch a cold and walks away, leaving her in a state of intense rage. The next day, Xiaoxing goes to school while everyone whispers and laughs at her. She enters the cafeteria, and before she can sit down, two girls take her spot and refuse to let her share the seat. She stands in the middle of the cafeteria, watching everyone's looks, until an older girl asks her to sit beside her. The girl seemed kind, so Xiaoxing tells her that she won't be a burden, she'll just eat quickly and leave. Xiaoxing goes to the swimming pool and starts cleaning it with her classmates. Mingqing comes up behind her and tells her that he brought the file from the hospital containing proof of her sister's death. Xiaoxing tries to take it from him, but he tells her he won't give it to her that easily. Then, to provoke her, knowing she can't swim, he throws the file into the water. But Xiaoxing jumps into the pool after the file. Mingqing is shocked by what she did, knowing she can't swim, and he jumps in after her, trying to get her out. But she pushes him away with all her strength to reach the file. When Mingqing finally pulls her out of the pool, Xiaoxing discovers that the papers were completely blank, that he was only bullying her again. She walks up to him and tells him, in front of all the students, that she never expected him to be this vile. Xiaoxing realizes that she won't be able to escape the past unless she uncovers it. She makes up her mind to find out the real cause of her sister's death so she can stop this jerk from bullying her. She goes to the hospital and talks to one of the doctors, telling him she wants some information about a certain patient named Xiaobai. But the doctor tells her that she can't get any information about a patient because that's illegal. Xiaoxing tells him she's her younger sister and that she only wants to know if she died because of appendicitis. The doctor tells her that it's impossible for that to happen, especially in a big hospital like this. It's a simple surgery and no one dies from it. Xiaoxing thanks him and walks out of the hospital feeling like the ground is slipping from under her feet. She never imagined that the truth she had lived by for so long was actually a lie. Xiaoxing sees Mingqing in front of her, so she nervously tells him that she caught a cold just like he said, and that she came for a checkup. He tells her he doesn't care what her real intentions are, then walks away from her. Xiaoxing follows him, knowing that he's probably still angry about what she said in front of the whole school, but now she knows he might have been telling the truth, because the truth she once knew turned out to be nothing but a lie. Xiaoxing returns home completely distracted and begins to recall some past events that made them leave the neighboring village and move to this village, where her sister used to live before she died. During the school holiday, the family travels to their original village to visit relatives. While there, Xiaoxing learns from an old neighbor that her sister had been left alone for a long time in the village they recently moved to, and that was because of what she had gone through here. On the other side, Mingqing is playing with some of his classmates when he overhears one of them saying to another that Xiaobai was a loose girl who would sleep with anyone who said sweet words to her. Mingqing sees her photo and realizes that they are the ones spreading the rumors. He tries to message Xiaoxing to tell her the truth, that he wasn't the one spreading the rumors like she thought, but he hesitates at the last moment. Later, we see Xiaoxing in the village, where she meets an old classmate named Sean at the village's small library. Sean expresses how happy he is to see her again and that she's finally out of the sadness over her sister's death and back in the village. He tells her that she's a good girl, not like her sister at all. Xiaoxing is surprised and asks why he would say that about her sister. After all, the only thing she did was date a thug. But Sean tells her that her sister was a bad girl, and he knows Xiaoxing isn't like her. This upsets Xiaoxing and she leaves. After that, she goes to the home of the oldest nurse in the village, since the woman had worked in all the hospitals, hoping she might have the answers Xiaoxing is looking for. She asks her about her sister and whether she knows anything about her. The woman tells her she doesn't know why her sister went to the hospital, whether it was for her appendix or something else, but she's sure Xiaobai was pregnant, and that their mother was extremely upset, especially after she lost the baby when the father refused to acknowledge it. Xiaoxing asks the woman if she knows who the father was, but the woman says she never found out. Xiaoxing returns home late, and her mother asks her where she had been all this time. But Xiaoxing ignores her and heads to her room. There, she tells her brother everything she learned that day, and says she suspects that the baby's father might have had something to do with Xiaobai's death, maybe to stop her from exposing him. But her brother tells her to stop digging into the past and forget about it so she doesn't bring trouble upon herself. But Xiaoxing had no intention of stopping. The next day, she decides to go see Sean again. Maybe he knows something about her sister, especially since he spoke about her the day before. The two of them sit at a cafe, and he tells her that he's going to order her some boba, her favorite. But by coincidence, Xiaoxing's mother passes by and sees her daughter sitting with the young men. She immediately pulls her away and tells the boy to stay away from her daughter and never come near her again, then takes Xiaoxing back home. At home, the woman scolds her daughter for sitting with a boy and warns her to be careful and not damage the family's reputation like her sister did. But Xiaoxing tells her that she's not like her sister. Her mother says that men deceive girls, and that this always happens, not just in her sister's case. Xiaoxing insists that she's smart, but her mother replies that her sister thought she was smart too, until what happened, happened. She tells her that any wrong move now will greatly damage the family's reputation because they can't handle any more shame. Then she storms off inside, angry. A while later, Xiaoxing's aunt arrives, an aunt who suffers from mental issues. She grabs Xiaoxing by the hand and tells her that she's going to tell her everything, but she must follow her. As she pulls her, a diary falls out of her hands, and it has Xiaobai written on the cover. But just then, her husband arrives, quickly apologizes to Xiaoxing, takes his wife, and leaves. Xiaoxing keeps the diary. Before opening it, she remembers her mother's words and her fragile mental state. She tells herself that she refuses to be a burden on this family any longer, or to dig into a past her mother is trying to forget. She wakes her younger brother and asks him to come with her to burn their aunt's diary. As Xiaoxing burns the first page, she hesitates at the last moment, telling herself she'll regret it if she does this. Moments later, Xiaoxing notices thick smoke rising from their house. She and her little brother rush back, only to discover that everything in the house has burned down. Xiaoxing feels deep sorrow for the memories of her sister that were in that house. The family returns to their new village once again, heartbroken over the home they lost in the fire. The next day, Xiaoxing returns to school. All the students are gathered in the gym for height and weight measurements. When Xiaoxing takes off her shoes to get measured and comes back, she finds that they've disappeared. The bullies start laughing at her, saying she doesn't even have shoes, and joking among themselves about whether anyone has seen them. Embarrassed, Xiaoxing walks back to class barefoot. Mingqing sees her sitting in that state, so he places his sneakers in front of her and tells her he doesn't wear them anymore, she can use them for the day. Xiaoxing takes the shoes and wears them, knowing she can't go home like that. When she arrives home, her mother notices the boy's shoes she's wearing and asks who gave them to her. But Xiaoxing tells her she lost her own shoes and found these in the trash. Her mother accuses her of lying, saying no one would throw away such expensive shoes. At that moment, Xiaoxing's brother comes out of his room and tells their mother that Xiaoxing is being bullied at school because of her sister, and that he can't keep it secret anymore. The mother talks to her daughter and tells her that Xiaobai also came here running away from their old village, hoping to live a better life, but things didn't go that way. Still, she doesn't want Xiaoxing to give up like her sister did. She tells her to be brave in school so she can graduate, and then go to college in the capital and leave this place behind. The next day, Mingqing finds his sneakers back on his seat, cleaned. He realizes Xiaoxing washed them, and he looks at her with a smile, thinking about her for the first time. When Xiaoxing leaves class, she finds Mingqing waiting for her outside, using the shoes as an excuse to talk to her. He tells her he was planning to throw them away anyway because they looked worn out, but thanks to her for washing them, now he can wear them again. Xiaoxing replies with something unexpected. She tells him she's willing to do all his homework for the whole semester, but she has two conditions. First, he has to bring her sister's hospital report. Second, he has to lend her his phone. Mingqing tells her he agrees. The next day, Mingqing returns with his phone and gives it to Xiaoxing. Then he holds up the report and tells her that he'll give it to her too, but only after the upcoming exams, so nothing inside it distracts her. Then he walks away. Xiaoxing returns home and begins studying seriously, determined to get the report from Mingqing. A little while later, their mother comes home. It seems the siblings were waiting for her. The younger brother tells her that the teacher needs his old school records. So their mother goes to the drawer where the family's documents are kept to get the report for him. At that moment, Xiaoxing is making tea and pretends to burn her hand with the hot water. The mother rushes to her, scolding her for being careless. Meanwhile, her brother takes the opportunity to pull out Mingqing's phone and starts photographing all the documents in the drawer. They return to their room and begin going through the photos, but discover that there's nothing important about their sister there. Xiaoxing feels disappointed. She took Mingqing's phone for no reason. The next day, their mother notices that 10 yuan are missing from the money in the drawer. She calls Xiaoxing's brother and asks him about the money and the papers. In fear, he says he was only trying to take the money, and that his sister helped him, but he doesn't mention the documents. However, Xiaoxing's mother had already found the phone and asked her how she got such an expensive device. Nervously, Xiaoxing tells her she found it in the school library and brought it home so no one else would steal it, and that she was planning to return it. But her mother yells at her, suspects she's lying, and accuses her of being involved with someone who gave her the phone. Xiaoxing's mother then decides to go with her to school and return the phone to its owner herself. At school, they go to the homeroom teacher. He tells Xiaoxing not to be afraid, and if she took the phone from someone, all she needs to do is admit it. But Xiaoxing insists on her story, that she found it in the library. Just then, an announcement is made over the school's loudspeaker saying that a phone has been lost and was found in the library, and the owner should come to claim it. Mingqing hears the announcement. Some girls nearby say that Xiaoxing's mother came with her because she suspects her daughter stole the phone. Mingqing walks past them as they're sitting together. Shi Yaoxing gets anxious, afraid he might say something or ask for the phone, but he passes by without a word, thinking something strange is going on. However, Shi Yaoxing's mother notices the shoes Mingqing is wearing and realizes he's the boy who's been playing with her daughter. But a moment later, she sees other boys wearing the same shoes and says to her daughter, "Looks like those shoes are trending." After a while, a girl arrives with the teacher, and it turns out to be the same girl who had once sat with Shi Yaoxing in the cafeteria. She says in front of Shi Yaoxing's mother that she had forgotten her phone in the library and thanks Shi Yaoxing sincerely for returning it to her. After the matter is over, Shi Yaoxing follows the girl and thanks her deeply for her help, but the girl tells her she didn't actually do anything, that it was Mingqing who came and asked her to say that. When she returns home, Shi Yaoxing receives a message from a stranger asking to meet her, about her sister. Shi Yaoxing goes to meet him the next day. He tells her that he was her sister's classmate at school, and that she was always bullied by the students, but he couldn't defend her even once because he was weak, even though he was her only friend. After graduation, he left to study at a university outside the village. One day, when he returned to the village, he saw Shi Yaobai with her thug boyfriend and heard people say she was a flirt who always hung out with men. Shi Yaoxing yells in his face, asking why he came to tell her all of this. Was it because he couldn't stand up for her, and maybe that's why her mental state deteriorated the way it did? He tells her that, yes, he does feel guilty, but he came to give her a CD that contains footage of Shi Yaobai dancing ballet, because she was a talented ballerina. At that moment, Mingqing and his friends pass by the cafe and see Shi Yaoxing standing with the guy. One of them says, "Isn't she the one who supposedly doesn't talk to boys at all? Now look at her standing with a guy older than her. Looks like she'll turn out just like her sister." But Mingqing silences them and tells them to stop this nonsense, even though deep down, he felt jealous over Shi Yaoxing. Shi Yaoxing goes to school and sits with the students to work on a group project in front of the computers. But in truth, Shi Yaoxing accesses the students' group, the one that included her sister, and she finds pictures of her sister with a certain girl. She finds the girl and contacts her, saying she wants to meet her about Shi Yaobai. The girl tells her that she works all day, but now is a good time. Shi Yaoxing raises her hand and tells the teacher that she has a stomachache and wants to go to the hospital. The teacher allows her to leave the last class, despite the murmurs of the students. One of them says she's probably going to meet the guy again like yesterday. Shi Yaoxing goes to meet the girl and introduces herself as Shi Yaobai's sister. She asks the girl about her, and the girl tells her that they were close friends and that she knows everything about her. Shi Yaoxing asks her about Shi Yaobai's boyfriend, if she could help her reach the father of the child. But the girl tells her it was hard to say Shi Yaobai had just one boyfriend, as she was always dating several men, and all of them were bad, thugs or criminals. But one day, she met a humble hairdresser who genuinely liked her. However, when her thug boyfriend found out, he went to the salon with his men and started smashing everything and beating up the men until he swore he had no relationship with Shi Yaobai whatsoever. Then the thug mocked her, telling her boyfriend sold her out in a second and that she had no one but him. Shi Yaobai was always sad, always searching for love outside her home. And because she was the one chasing it, people assumed she was a flirt. She found no one but criminals and thugs to date. The next day, as Shi Yaoxing tries to leave the park, she can't move her bike because the chain had fallen. She tries to fix it but can't. Just then, Mingqing shows up and fixes it for her. As Shi Yaoxing gets ready to leave, Mingqing asks her, "Aren't you going to thank me?" She thanks him, but he tells her that's not the kind of thank you he wants. He wants her to give him a ride to his house. Shi Yaoxing didn't want to, but Mingqing sat on the seat and refused to move. Shi Yaoxing started pedaling, and Mingqing kept talking, until he asked her about the guy she was with yesterday. Was he her sister's friend? Shi Yaoxing stopped pedaling, clearly upset, got off the bike, and told him to leave. But Mingqing took her place, sat in front, and made her sit behind him as he continued riding. Shi Yaoxing decided to tell him everything she had learned about her sister. Mingqing's response was that this didn't mean she was a bad person. Maybe she was just looking for affection, but in the wrong place. The next day, as she was leaving school, Shi Yaoxing found her sister's ex-boyfriend, the thug, standing in front of her. He tried to talk to her. Shi Yaoxing noticed her classmate's stares and felt uneasy, so she asked him if they could go somewhere else. They both went to a cafe, and as soon as the students in the cafe saw him, they all got up and left because they knew he was a thug with a bad reputation. The men sat with Shi Yaoxing and told her that she didn't look anything like her sister and that she was still young, but he would make sure she turned out just like her. Then he asked her if she had a boyfriend. Shi Yaoxing panicked and tried to leave, but the men stopped her and told her it wouldn't be that easy. He tried to assault her, but just then, he heard the alarm go off in his car and rushed out to check. That's when the kind classmate and Momo came in, grabbed Shi Yaoxing by the hand, and the two ran out the cafe's back door. Shi Yaoxing thanked the girl and asked how she knew she needed help. The girl told her that Mingqing saw her leave with the thug and asked her to follow them and get Shi Yaoxing out, while he went to tamper with the car. But the thug didn't stop there. That evening, he went to Shi Yaoxing's family's restaurant and ordered food. After he and his men had finished eating, he walked over to pay Shi Yaoxing's mother and left her a tip, mentioning that she should keep it since her daughter was now his girlfriend. The woman, who knew exactly who he was, refused to take the money. But he forced it in front of her and insisted she accept it, saying he was going to be her daughter's lover and that it would be best if she treated him more kindly from now on. Then he walked away, leaving the money behind, while the woman threw it to the floor in fear. The next day, Xiaoxing went to school and found that the thug had left her flowers and a love letter. Her friend, horrified, asked her if it was true, if she was really the thug's girlfriend like her sister had once been. Xiaoxing assured her that it wasn't true. On her way out, fear gripped Xiaoxing and she tried to escape quickly before the thug could catch her. Outside the school, Mingcheng and his friends were sitting and saw the scene unfold. One of them asked why Xiaoxing was running like that, and another assumed it must be because of her thug boyfriend. Mingcheng felt upset by their remarks. As Xiaoxing continued down the street, she felt someone walking behind her. Panic rose inside her, but she calmed down immediately when she realized it was Mingcheng. He told her he wanted to walk her home that day, if she didn't mind, because he was worried about her. Mingcheng walked ahead, and Xiaoxing followed behind, feeling safe and free of fear. When she reached her house, she turned and watched Mingcheng walk away. Later, Xiaoxing spoke with her younger brother and asked him why he thought their parents had always been so passive, never defending Xiaobai from bullies, or even from that thug. She decided to go to her family's restaurant to ask them directly. But when she arrived, she found the place wrecked, smashed up by the thug. He was sitting at a table in the middle of the restaurant, asking her parents about their younger daughter. Her father, trembling and filled with helplessness, told him that their daughter was just a child and begged him to forgive her for anything she might have done wrong. The thug then said that Xiaobai had been his girlfriend, that she used him for money, and dated other men behind his back. He claimed she had taken advantage of him financially, and that now their small town owed him something in return for what the older daughter had done. At that moment, Xiaoxing arrived and threw water on him. Her father scolded her, and the thug stood up. Her father tried to protect her, but before anything could happen, the sound of a police car siren rang out. The thug left, warning them that he would come back for revenge. As soon as he was gone, Xiaoxing's parents began to scold her for what she had done, and for going to the cafe with the thug. But Xiaoxing shouted back, saying she only did it because of them, because she had wanted to learn something, anything, about her sister, while they had remained passive and never once tried to defend her, or even had the courage to talk about her. Then Xiaoxing ran out of the place, crying in the street, no longer able to carry the weight of everything happening to her. The next day, Xiaoxing went to school, overwhelmed with fear because of that thug. While she was in class, one of the students told her that her boyfriend was outside, causing a commotion. Xiaoxing rushed out and saw the man standing in front of her, trying to talk to her. She tried to avoid him, but he blocked her path. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a sharp object, ready to wound him with it, but just in time, Mingcheng arrived and grabbed her hand to stop her, getting his own hand cut in the process. He didn't want Xiaoxing to get into trouble. Mingcheng then stood in front of her, ready to protect her, but the police arrived, and the thug quickly fled the scene. Mingcheng looked at Xiaoxing with concern, then glanced at the students who were whispering among themselves. He took off his coat and placed it over Xiaoxing's head, then gently led her away. Later, Xiaoxing's mother was summoned to the school because of the incident. The principal wanted to suspend Xiaoxing, claiming that she had injured another student. But stepped in and explained that he was the one who got involved to defend her from the thug. One of the teachers supported him, saying that this thug had been coming around the school frequently and harassing the girls, and that Xiaoxing had only been defending herself, even if she didn't do it the right way. Mingcheng added that the injury was not deep and that he had injured himself, not Xiaoxing. Xiaoxing was supposed to be taken to the police station. In the end, the principal decided to give her another chance since she wasn't the guilty one. But Xiaoxing wished she had never received that second chance, because her days at school became harder than ever. The bullying worsened, just like it had for her sister. The thug had started bothering the other students because of her, and the bullying against her became more obvious and more vicious. They threw trash on her and even locked her inside the bathroom. No one stood up for her except Mingcheng and her one loyal friend. On the weekend, Mingcheng found himself missing her. He decided to order food from her family's restaurant, just to hear her voice answering the phone like usual. But that day, Xiaoxing decided to deliver the food herself to this special customer who always ordered from them, so she could give him a special gift. When she arrived, Mingcheng was stunned to hear her voice. He reached out his hand silently without speaking. Xiaoxing told him that she wanted to talk to him, but he didn't respond. She explained that she had brought a gift from the restaurant because he was a valued customer. When she noticed he didn't want to come out, she felt something strange and decided to push the door open. And that's when she was shocked to discover who he really was. Xiaoxing walked inside and saw the place in total chaos. She commented to Mingcheng, almost mockingly, that if the student saw the top student living in such a place, they would definitely make fun of him. Mingcheng explained that he couldn't clean because of the injury in his hand. Xiaoxing thanked him for helping her at school. Mingcheng, who wanted to spend more time with her, said that a simple thank you wasn't enough. If she really wanted to repay him, then she should start by cleaning the house. Xiaoxing did start cleaning, and while tidying his room, she came across a photo of his mother. She picked it up, but Mingcheng suddenly lost control and yelled at her to put it down and not touch anything in that room. Xiaoxing felt embarrassed and upset, so she decided to leave the house. The next day, Mingcheng saw her at school and tried to talk to her, but Xiaoxing completely ignored him and didn't respond. Mingcheng realized then that she was still angry with him. During gym class, he followed her and kept running behind her while she jogged, trying to talk, but Xiaoxing told him firmly that she didn't have to deal with him. Mingcheng snapped again and yelled at her once more. Later that day, when Xiaoxing returned home, her mother told her they had something important to do. She took her to the train station. Xiaoxing asked where they were going, and her mother told her they were heading to the city to change her name, because carrying her sister's name brought them nothing but bad luck. But Xiaoxing lost control and screamed that she never wanted to change her name. As she resisted, people around thought the woman was trying to abduct her, and a crowd gathered, calling the police. The mother told them Xiaoxing was her daughter and urged her to confirm it in front of everyone, but Xiaoxing refused to say a word and walked away, leaving her mother behind to be taken by the police. Later, when her parents returned home after her father had gotten her mother out, the mother screamed at her daughter for leaving her like that, but she replied that it is the only way she can escape changing her name. She'll never do that. She said they had already faced enough problems and chaos, and they didn't need to make things worse. Soon after, Jean Rui's wedding arrived, and the family decided to return to the village to prepare for the ceremony with the rest of the relatives. It was revealed there that Jean Rui wasn't their biological cousin, but their adopted son, and the whole family loved him dearly. They were also proud of his higher education. Jean Rui went to Xiaoxing's room and told her to come with him to the market to buy some things for the wedding. Xiaoxing gladly went with him. While in the car, she asked Jean Rui more about her sister and his memories of her from childhood. Jean Rui told her that her sister had been a sweet girl, but after Xiaoxing was born, the family's attention had shifted entirely to the baby. Her sister had felt lonely, but Jean Rui had always tried to be there for her and comfort her as much as he could. Over time, they became very close. But after she left the village, he found out that her mental health had declined and eventually, she passed away. Xiaoxing thanked him deeply for everything he had done for her sister, and for taking care of her during their childhood. The next day, Mingqing told her about a charity event for children where he would be performing, and he asked her to come along. Xiaoxing agreed, and she decided to read her aunt's diary in hopes of learning something about her sister's life. As she began reading, she was hit with the shock of her life. She read in the diary that her sister had been in a relationship with Jean Rui, which resulted in her becoming pregnant. But Jean Rui had abandoned both her and the baby, and Jean Rui's father had forced her to have an abortion. Her sister had then traveled to another village so that no one would find out about the abortion, and while there, she struggled emotionally and began dating other men to get over Jean Rui. But she was never able to. Xiaoxing wept as she looked at her cousin, who always pretended to be kind and gentle, and now she was devastated by the truth about him. Later, the entire family gathered for dinner. During the meal, Jean Rui's mother turned to Xiaoxing's parents and told them to watch over Xiaoxing so she wouldn't go down the same path her sister did after moving to the big city. Xiaoxing lost her temper and said that her sister had already gone astray while living in the village, so how could that have happened? Jean Rui's mother responded by saying that men can lead women astray. Xiaoxing replied that if that were true, then Jean Rui must have been the one who misled her sister. After all, he was the only one she ever knew. Jean Rui grew visibly anxious, but his mother turned to Xiaoxing's father, telling him to stop his daughter. He responded with complete indifference, telling her not to speak that way in front of elders. Xiaoxing decided to take revenge. She searched through her sister's belongings until she found a small music box that contained a photo of her and Jean Rui. She sneaked into Jean Rui's room and left the box there. When Jean Rui returned and saw it, he was shocked. At that moment, Xiaoxing entered the room and told him she knew it was him who had done that to her sister. Jean Rui tried to deny it, but she said the photo was just a small piece of evidence, and that she was going to expose him in front of everyone and reveal what he had done. Xiaoxing then contacted her classmate and sent her a copy of her aunt's diary, asking her to print many copies. When the girl handed her the printed papers, she said this would turn into a huge scandal. But Xiaoxing reassured her not to worry, she was going to get justice for her sister. Meanwhile, Xiaoxing's mother handed Jean Rui a savings book and told him that she had never touched the money he had sent over the years, because she didn't want compensation from someone who had done such harm to her daughter. She said she forgave him, not for his sake, but so as not to break his parents' hearts. She hoped he would become a better man with his future wife and wouldn't treat her the way he had treated Xiaoxing's sister. Then she left the room. Later, everyone began preparing the wedding invitations for the guests. Xiaoxing's mother gave her a box and asked her to deliver it to Jean Rui's room. On her way, Xiaoxing ran into Jean Rui, and he took the box from her. He asked for her forgiveness, saying that he truly felt guilty about everything. Xiaoxing asked him if he truly meant what he said, and he assured her that he did. She replied that she would forgive him, because, in the end, he was family, but her eyes betrayed her true feelings. She had no intention of forgiving him. That night, Xiaoxing stayed up, placing the papers her classmate had printed into the guest invitation cards. She was determined to take justice into her own hands. The next day, the bride was getting ready for the wedding. A short while later, Xiaoxing entered the room and sat beside her. They began talking, and Xiaoxing asked how she had met Jean Rui. The bride recounted their love story, and Xiaoxing felt that she was being honest and genuinely happy about the marriage. Just as Xiaoxing was about to reveal the truth about Jean Rui, her mother entered the room, so she fell silent. Outside, her mother pulled her aside, and Xiaoxing confessed that she knew everything Jean Rui had done. Her mother told her that while moving on was difficult, accepting that he was marrying another woman was even harder. But they didn't want to become like Jean Rui and ruin other people's lives. Xiaoxing went into the room where the wedding cards were being kept. She watched them closely, questioning whether what she was about to do was right. Then she looked around at the guests, who were all smiling and joyful, and she decided to back out. She grabbed the box and headed out with it, hoping to remove the cards before anyone saw them. But on her way, she overheard a guest asking why the family of that disgraceful girl had even been invited, saying they would only bring shame and ruin the event. That moment changed everything. Shi Yaoxing decided that it was unfair for Jinrui to live a happy life while she, her sister, and their family had endured all that pain. She returned to the hall holding the box and began handing out the cards to the guests. They started reading the contents, revealing the truth about Jinrui. Even the bride took a card and began reading it, feeling deeply shocked. Within minutes, she had left the wedding, and the guests followed suit, having now learned the truth. As the house erupted in chaos after what Shi Yaoxing had done, her aunt searched for her everywhere, but Shi Yaoxing had already escaped. Shi Yaoxing headed to the train station, waiting for the next trip. She dozed off for a while at the station, only to be startled awake by the realization that her wallet had been stolen. She rushed to the nearby officer and told him what had happened. The officer asked for her full information so he could open an investigation, but Shi Yaoxing feared that he might discover she was running away. So she backed down and told him she had found the wallet after all. She wandered aimlessly through the streets, not knowing where to go, until she came across a small restaurant that sold noodles. She stood in front of the place, feeling extremely hungry. She walked inside and asked the restaurant owner for a phone. She tried calling Mingqing, but he didn't answer. As she watched people eat, she realized the noodle dish cost 10 yuan. She told the owner that she only had 9 yuan and asked if she could still have a portion of the food, even if it was slightly reduced. The woman felt sorry for Shi Yaoxing and prepared the noodles for her, saying they were free of charge. After Shi Yaoxing finished eating, the woman asked her to leave quickly because the area became dangerous at night. Shi Yaoxing pleaded with her to let her work at the restaurant, promising to clean everything, since she had nowhere else to go. The woman agreed. The next morning, Mingqing found the note Shi Yaoxing had left him. He grabbed his bag and rushed to the village where she was staying. Meanwhile, Shi Yaoxing was in the restaurant, washing dishes. She looked extremely exhausted, to the point that she accidentally broke one of the plates. The woman quickly came to check on her. Shi Yaoxing apologized and promised it wouldn't happen again, but the woman told her she looked too tired and that the work was hard for someone so young. Still, Shi Yaoxing begged her for another chance. A while later, Shi Yaobai's childhood friend happened to pass by the restaurant and saw Shi Yaoxing inside. He entered and asked her to return to her family, but Shi Yaoxing refused. The young man told her he knew Jinrui had done something wrong, but said that punishing the whole family for it was unfair. Shi Yaoxing replied that her entire family was guilty because they had covered up what Jinrui had done and never thought about avenging her sister. She said she felt no sympathy for them and never would, and that she would never forgive them for what they did. The young man tried to convince her of his perspective, but she rejected it completely and ran out of the restaurant. He chased after her, shouting that she was too weak and would faint. But Shi Yaoxing didn't stop, until she finally collapsed, just as snowflakes began to fall around her. Shi Yaoxing dreamed of her sister comforting her. She told her sister that she had taken revenge, yet she still didn't feel at peace. But in reality, it was Mingqing who was holding her and patting her gently. He took her to the hospital. When Shi Yaoxing woke up, she saw her grandmother coming to the hospital after her health was worsened. She recalled that this was what her sister's friend had warned her about, and she felt a small pang of guilt. But Mingqing quickly moved her away before anyone could see her, knowing no one would show her mercy. Mingqing and Shi Yaoxing returned to their city together. He told her she could stay with him since he lived alone, and her family would never expect her to be hiding in his place. When Shi Yaoxing arrived, she was in disguise so no one would recognize her. Once inside, Mingqing told her to rest from the exhaustion of travel and to feel at home. He handed her some clothes and suggested she take a shower. Shi Yaoxing looked uneasy, so he reassured her that he would leave the house until she finished bathing so she could feel safer. Mingqing stepped outside, and Shi Yaoxing went ahead with her shower. Afterward, she began exploring the house. Soon, Mingqing returned and told her that he had contacted her family and that everyone was fine, except her parents who were completely devastated and only wished to see their daughter again. They had even started handing out her photos, begging strangers to inform them if they spotted her. Her mother once thought she saw someone in her daughter's clothes and ran after her, calling her name, nearly getting hit by a car before a passerby pulled her back to safety. Days passed. One morning, while Shi Yaoxing and Mingqing were having breakfast as usual, the sound of the doorbell rang. Shi Yaoxing tensed up immediately. Mingqing hurried her into his room and shut the door, then began collecting her belongings. When he opened the door, he found his father standing there. Mingqing tried to lie, but his father noticed Shi Yaoxing's shoes and her hairbrush and immediately realized Mingqing was hiding her. He left without saying a word to his son and refused to reveal her location. Afterward, Shi Yaoxing came out of the room. Mingqing apologized and promised to change the lock on the door so his father could never enter the house without his knowledge again. The next day, while Shi Yaoxing was home alone, she heard a knock. It turned out to be her schoolmate and Mingqing's neighbor. Shi Yaoxing opened the door, and the girl was stunned to see her. When she heard her parents arguing next door, she stepped inside. She explained to Shi Yaoxing that she had nowhere else to go. From the way she spoke about Mingqing, Shi Yaoxing could tell she liked him. Shi Yaoxing told her she was only staying with Mingqing temporarily and planned to leave soon anyway. She didn't want to cause him any trouble. Shi Yaoxing finally left the house. But after only a few steps, she was stopped by people who told her that her parents had been searching for her. They started taking photos of her. Her parents rushed out at the commotion, and the moment they saw her, they pulled her inside quickly, expressing how worried they had been. But then her grandfather began scolding her harshly, telling her she had turned out just like her sister and had stained the family's reputation. He demanded she apologize to the family for what she had done. Shi Yaoxing responded that she had only done what was right. Her grandfather then shouted at her father, insisting that he force his daughter to apologize in front of the entire village, or else they would never see good fortune again. After they left, Shi Yaoxing entered her room, followed by her mother, who asked where she had been. Shi Yaoxing refused to answer, but her mother told her she already knew she had been with Mingqing because she didn't know anyone else. She warned her that she was on the same path as her sister, and if she insisted on going down that road, then she should leave the house. Shi Yaoxing moved to leave, but her mother quickly grabbed her and struck her, saying she wouldn't let her do such a thing again. The two women got into a fierce fight, while Mingqing watched everything through his window, filled with anger and sadness for Shi Yaoxing but unsure how to help her. The fight ended with Shi Yaoxing getting a wound on her face. Her mother immediately felt guilty, as it was the first time she had hurt her like that. Shi Yaoxing went back to her room, and her brother began to clean and dress the wound for her. Meanwhile, the mother installed an iron gate on the house's front door to prevent Shi Yaoxing from escaping again. She also took Shi Yaoxing's clothes and handed them to Mingqing, telling him to stay away from her daughter from now on. The next day, Shi Yaoxing went to school, where she continued to face harsh bullying, especially now that the whole town knew what she had done at her cousin's wedding. She was filled with shame and embarrassment. In class, Mingqing tried to approach her to talk, but she quickly moved away before he could, not wanting his reputation to be tainted by hers or for people to assume she had run away with him. Still, Mingqing didn't give up. He kept following her everywhere, trying to talk to her, until she entered the music room and locked the door. Mingqing knocked and told her he knew she was inside. He said he just wanted to know why she had left so suddenly without telling him, and that he had sent her many messages but never got a reply. Two boys inside the room opened the door and started laughing, asking who he was talking about. Meanwhile, Shi Yaoxing stood hidden behind the divider, having heard everything Mingqing said, but she didn't dare come out or respond. At home, Shi Yaoxing's father told her mother that she should obey his father's wishes and return to the village to apologize. But his wife refused, saying she wouldn't let him control their daughter like he did with Xiaobai. She grabbed the phone and called Shi Yaoxing's grandfather, telling him she wouldn't allow him to ruin another daughter's life the way he did with the first. Her husband yelled that he could no longer endure this life, but she broke down and shouted back that he was a coward who hadn't even stood up for their daughter against his brother. She said she wouldn't let the same thing happen to her younger daughter and reminded him how his family forced her to get pregnant with a boy despite her illness, just because they wanted a son. Despite everything, Shi Yaoxing decided to go with her father to the village and apologized in front of the whole family for what she had done, promising never to repeat it again. But Jean Rui's mother snapped that there was no next time, as her son's reputation was already ruined. The grandfather yelled at Shi Yaoxing and threw his cane at her father, demanding he hit her. But the men embraced his daughter and told him he wouldn't do it. The grandfather stood up to do it himself, but Shi Yaoxing's mother arrived just in time to protect her daughter. She knelt down and apologized herself. Afterward, Jean Rui's mother kept insulting Shi Yaoxing's mother and her daughters. At that point, the woman finally lost her temper and revealed that she had distributed the photos herself to take revenge on the boy, or rather the one she adopted, since she was unable to have children of her own. She was the only one who had been able to give this family a son. Jean Rui's mother lost control and was about to attack Shi Yaoxing's mother, but Shi Yaoxing quickly stepped in to protect her. A major fight broke out, ending with Shi Yaoxing's family leaving the village once again. Later, we see Shi Yaoxing and her mother riding the bicycle when the chain came off again. The woman tried to fix it but couldn't manage. Just then, 3 boys passed by and loudly said, "Isn't this the girl from the pictures online?" Shi Yaoxing's mother started arguing with them. Mingqing happened to walk by at that moment, but he pretended not to know Shi Yaoxing and went to sit with his friends. When they asked him why he did that, he explained that Shi Yaoxing's mother would be upset if he interfered, because it would only increase the rumors surrounding her, and he didn't want that. However, his friend showed him a photo of Shi Yaoxing circulating online. It was fake. Mingqing became furious and went to confront the boys, asking if they were the ones who did it. The boys mockingly asked, "And what if we are?" That was enough to make Mingqing lose control, and he got into a fight with them, but ended up getting beaten along with the others. Meanwhile, at school, Shi Yaoxing joined the ballet club, determined to follow in her sister's footsteps and fulfill her dream. Mingqing, on the other hand, focused most of his time on playing basketball, as he missed Shi Yaoxing deeply but couldn't find a way to reach her. One day, while the school principal was scolding a teacher, the students started laughing and mocking him, but Shi Yaoxing stepped forward and told them not to act that way, reminding them that he didn't deserve such treatment and that he had always helped them. The students felt ashamed of their behavior. The teacher then entered the classroom, on the verge of tears, only to notice that the students were completely silent. They had stood up to greet him without being asked, and they remained quiet throughout the entire lesson. The silence made the teacher feel something was wrong, so he asked them. One of the students stood up and said, "We're sorry, sir. We'll do our best to live up to your expectations." The teacher felt proud of his students, realizing that the time he spent at this school wasn't in vain, and he was overwhelmed with happiness. Shi Yaoxing returned to school, and her younger brother asked her to find his music player. While searching, she found a file that had been sent to her from the hospital where her sister had stayed. It seemed Mingqing was the one who sent it, just as he had promised her before. Shi Yaoxing discovered that her sister's condition had been stable while at the hospital and that she was discharged in good health after undergoing the abortion procedure. However, she died 2 months later. After reading this, Shi Yaoxing began to suspect that her sister's death wasn't natural, but her brother asked her to stop digging into the past, saying it was enough that she had avenged Jinrui. The following day, Shi Yaoxing went to school, where a classmate approached her saying that one of the ballet competition participants had withdrawn and asked Shi Yaoxing to take her place. At first, Shi Yaoxing hesitated, but when she returned home, she thought about how her sister would have been happy to have such an opportunity. That made her decide to participate. She stood in front of everyone and began to dance with great skill, impressing the audience, including Mingqing, who watched her with clear admiration. However, Shi Yaoxing's mother and brother happened to be passing by and her mother suspected the girl on stage was her daughter. When Shi Yaoxing noticed her, she rushed off the stage and her classmate helped her hide. Her mother entered the room, but Shi Yaoxing's classmate quickly came out and, when asked if Shi Yaoxing was there, told her she wasn't and asked what she would be doing there anyway. Her mother believed her and left, while Mingqing was holding Shi Yaoxing's hand and the two were escaping together from the scene. That evening, as they were leaving school, Mingqing told Shi Yaoxing he had chosen to study medicine at a university in the capital, and that it might be the last time they saw each other before he left. Shi Yaoxing didn't know what to say. She felt sad and knew she would miss him deeply. When Mingqing asked if she wanted to say anything before he left, Shi Yaoxing replied coldly, despite what she truly felt inside, that she wished him all the best. Mingqing walked away feeling his heart torn apart, knowing he had truly loved her. Later, Shi Yaoxing discovered that her mother was taking antidepressants. When she asked her father, he explained that her mother had been suffering from depression for a long time, ever since the death of their daughter, but he didn't want to worry them. However, her condition had worsened, and she had to resort to medication. Shi Yaoxing decided to go to the city hospital and began volunteering there. A woman approached her and told her she knew who she was, that she was Shi Yaobai's sister. Shi Yaoxing smiled and asked if the woman knew anything about her sister. The woman said that Shi Yaobai used to volunteer at the hospital to help fight AIDS. Shi Yaoxing asked her what more she knew about her sister. The woman replied that all she knew was that Shi Yaobai had been in a relationship with a young man she loved, but he had asked her to stop volunteering, and she never did again after that. Shi Yaoxing returned home and told her younger brother that she was now certain her sister hadn't died from the illness, because she had been discharged from the hospital in stable condition. She suspected there was something else behind her death. That's when they discovered that Shi Yaobai had actually been doing well during her hospital stay, but she had been receiving constant phone calls from people bullying her about everything that had happened. Their mother had always tried to protect her, but she couldn't, and eventually, Shi Yaobai decided to end all her suffering. At that moment, their mother had arrived and screamed at her, trying to stop her, but she failed. She had to watch her daughter die in front of her eyes. That was what led her into depression. Her younger brother asked how their sister could have done such a thing when she was always so afraid. Shi Yaoxing replied that sometimes life can be scarier than death. The next day, Shi Yaoxing decided to visit the psychiatrist who had treated her sister. He gave her a video that Shi Yaobai had recorded, telling the story of her life. Shi Yaobai said she had always been disliked by her family, who had expected the first child to be a boy. When they found out she was a girl, they treated her with neglect, so she tried to keep her distance from them. Eventually, Jinrui got close to her and deceived her. He constantly tried to approach her, and since she had longed for affection, she couldn't resist. One day, while she was tending to one of his wounds, he hugged her, and she ended up spending the night with him. But afterward, he completely abandoned her, saying it was just a one-time thing. After she had gotten rid of the baby and tried to leave for the city, rumors about her had already spread. She did her best to avoid them. The only person who offered her any protection was a thug, so she chose to be with him just to shield herself from other men. But in truth, she needed protection from him too, because he was abusive. She even discovered she had contracted HIV. When her family found out she was in the hospital, they finally came to see her and began apologizing for never standing up to Jinrui. They started caring for her, and her condition stabilized, but by then she had fallen into deep depression and couldn't bear the illness, so she ended her life. Shi Yaoxing closed the video, crying over the immense suffering her sister had endured. Soon after, the family received news that Shi Yaoxing's grandfather had passed away, so they all traveled to their old village for the funeral. After the ceremony, Jinrui's mother said that their grandfather had ordered the house to be left to Jinrui, as compensation for what their daughter had done. Shi Yaoxing's parents showed no reaction and said they had no objection. That's when the woman added that she believed burying their daughter in the family cemetery had brought misfortune upon them, and they wanted to move her remains elsewhere. Shi Yaoxing's mother overheard what happened. She walked into the room, confirmed what the woman had said, and immediately started beating her while shouting and cursing, letting out all the pain of the past years. But Shi Yaoxing pulled her mother away and told her it was enough. She said they would take Shi Yaobai's ashes and bury her somewhere better. And so, the family took Shi Yaobai's ashes and buried her in a new place. Shi Yaoxing was training for her ballet performance in a hotel when she lost track of time and fell asleep during practice. Without realizing she was inside, the staff locked the room. Outside, Mingqing arrived at the hotel with his mother, who happened to be a member of the judging panel for the upcoming dance competition. One of the workers approached them and mentioned that one of the contestants was missing and might be accidentally locked inside the ballet hall. Mingqing checked the contestant's information and immediately realized it was Xiaoxing. He rushed with all his strength toward the room. Mingqing opened the door in panic and ran to her. Xiaoxing explained that she had decided to stay there for the night because she couldn't afford a hotel room until the competition the next day. Without hesitation, Mingqing brought her to his own room and told her she could stay there. Xiaoxing thanked him and told him how he always rescued her and stood by her side. Mingqing responded that it was actually his luck and that he would always stay by her side and help her. They both slept peacefully until the next day. During the competition, right before Xiaoxing was about to perform, a problem occurred with the music. She froze on stage, not knowing what to do. At that moment, Mingqing stepped out and began playing the piano. Xiaoxing danced gracefully to his music while his mother watched, smiling, fully understanding her son's feelings. After the performance, as they walked together, Mingqing told Xiaoxing he was sure she would win the competition. But Xiaoxing told him that winning didn't matter to her, all she wanted was to step on that stage and dance, just like her sister used to do. Mingqing then told her that this would be his last day in the city before he moved to the capital. He asked if she would go out with him, just once, for their first and last date. Xiaoxing agreed. Mingqing placed his scarf on her shoulders, then took her to the fish garden. They were both happy and asked someone to take a picture of them together. Afterward, they each got a bicycle and rode to the seashore. There, Mingqing took Xiaoxing's hair tie and asked to keep it as a memory of her. Xiaoxing returned to her normal life, but one day the thug showed up at the restaurant again, demanding that she be his girlfriend once more. Xiaoxing's mother stood in front of him and told him that Xiaoxing was just a young girl and he was not allowed to come near her. In response, the thug grabbed the small child and threatened to pour hot water on him. At that moment, Xiaoxing's father lost control, grabbed the gas cylinder and a lighter, and threatened to burn the thug if he didn't back off. Frightened, the thug ran away. But the next day, he followed Xiaoxing to school and, as usual, asked her to be his girlfriend. Xiaoxing tried to avoid him as much as she could, but he told her that she owed him something in return. When Xiaoxing asked what kind of compensation he wanted, he told her that her sister had deceived him, pretending to love him only for money, while dating other men behind his back. And when he found out she had AIDS, he dumped her and exposed everything online. Xiaoxing screamed at him in shock, realizing he was the one behind the spread of all those rumors. She told him that her sister had been doing fine and was receiving psychological treatment, but when she saw those rumors, she decided to end her life. Her sister had only been with him because he protected her from the men who bullied her, but she could never love him because of the way he treated her. That was the truth. Xiaoxing hit the thug, and he stood there frozen, shaken by the fact that the girl he once loved had died because of him. He staggered away, consumed by guilt and grief. After school, Mingqing's friends came to him and told him everything that had happened. Anger appeared clearly on his face, but his friends tried to calm him down, reminding him that he would be leaving the city tomorrow anyway. Still, Mingqing couldn't ignore what had happened. That evening, he went out to protect Xiaoxing one last time. He fought with the thug and beat him up to avenge her, but the thug didn't fight back. He was already overwhelmed with regret. That night, Xiaoxing sat beside her mother as she took her medication. She told her that all her life, she thought her mother had been cruel, but now she understood that her mother had been sick. She was now certain that her mother loved her, and that it was her fear for her that made her act the way she did. Then, Xiaoxing admitted that Mingqing had always been the one helping her through everything. Her mother told her that she was still too young to be with someone like Mingqing, and that was why she was afraid for her. Xiaoxing replied that Mingqing had already left, and even if she wanted to see him again, she wouldn't be able to. At that very moment, Mingqing was at the restaurant, having a meal there for the last time. Days passed, and Xiaoxing succeeded in her exams, achieving high scores that qualified her for college. Her father was overjoyed, running around the village telling everyone about his daughter's results. Her mother took her shopping for university clothes and asked her to pay more attention to her appearance now that she was a grown-up girl. She also encouraged her to go out with friends and enjoy her life more. Later, Xiaoxing met up with her old school friends, and they told her what Jin Rui had done the last time he saw the thug. He had beaten him up so badly that the police were called. When the police saw how badly injured Mingqing was, they realized he had only done it to put the thug behind bars, and that's exactly what happened. Upon hearing this, Xiaoxing immediately stood up and ran to the tree where she first met Mingqing. She stood before it, thinking of him, missing him, and wishing she could see him again. Soon after, Xiaoxing entered university. Her mother bought her a phone, telling her it was time she had one. They had avoided it before, fearing it would distract her from her studies. Then, her mother looked at the girls around and told Xiaoxing to start dressing like a young woman. She should live her life without fear and always be beautiful. When Xiaoxing got home, her younger brother told her something important. Mingqing had come to the restaurant on his last day before leaving town. He had ordered spicy noodles, and while eating, he began to cry. Her brother had thought Mingqing was crying because of the spice, but Mingqing told him, "I can't leave her. I can't forget her." That's when her brother realized Mingqing was talking about Xiaoxing, and at that moment, she knew that Mingqing loved her just as much as she loved him. University days went by, and Xiaoxing kept hoping she would see Mingqing again. One day, she went to the beach where they had spent their last day together. She stood there, full of longing and nostalgia, when suddenly she heard his voice behind her. She turned around and saw Mingqing standing there. "I came back for you," he said. "And I'm never leaving again." Mingqing confessed that he had always loved her and was ready to do anything for her. Shi Yaoxing smiled and told him she loved him too, and that she had been waiting for him. Mingqing stepped closer and said, "From now on, we'll always be together."